What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So, as y'all know, the big Season 9 update for Motorfest is dropping tomorrow. I did want to go over some early stuff here in this entire update, going over some stuff with the playground, other things that you can expect to see in the Prestige shop, some other items you can also expect to unlock, some of the new vehicles, and some other stuff, including the Track Forge. And I also did want to say thank you to Ubisoft for providing me access to the game. I really do appreciate it for real. Now, without further ado though, let's now talk about the first part, which is of course the new playground type of island. So you guys will see me in the background currently driving. You guessed it, one of the new NASCARs in the game. This is obviously a Toyota, aka Camry. Also, I might have to do some research on this, but I wonder if this is really a Toyota. Like, let me know in the comments below if y'all are knowing stuff about NASCAR. I probably have to read more into this. But either way, though, this is one of the routes you can get to the island from. Also, I do want to admit, do not question my driving. This is the first time I did end up driving the NASCAR. And before you say it, first impressions, it is really fun to drive, by the way. But this is the part with the aquarium where you guys will see fish and stuff like that when you are heading over to the island. And I gotta admit, it is actually really cool. I kind of paused for a minute, looked at like the sea life in there. I'm like, all right, this is pretty cool. I do like the long tunnel type of drive, which is kind of crazy because this whole tunnel area is, I think it's over 2.5 miles. It might even be more than that. It might be like around 3-ish miles. You have a lot of tunnels, obviously, because you're underwater. So, it's not a bridge or, on top of the water, you're under it. But with that, you will have multiple aquariums until you get to the island, which I will admit is bigger than I initially thought, even though the trailers did show a great size. Once you guys do pull into it, you'll probably do what I did, and you'll most likely end up kind of stopping and looking around and trying to figure out where your next overall route is. There's a few different things on this island. You'll end up seeing the gigantic stadium, which you will see in the background. That will be where the NASCAR track is. And also, it's kind of another race car track there as well. That's on top of it. That's also kind of part of it. I did end up going there first to start the entire NASCAR playlist thing because I kind of wanted to jump right into that, which I'll talk about that here in a second. I'm also planning a review on that as well. But speaking of that, though, I did want to switch cars, though, and show you guys a different part of the entire playground island. So you will end up noticing that the main stadium has the NASCAR tracks and tracks there. But there is a lot of other roads you can drive on that will also take you to other routes going over some different hills. And they'll also end up having the boosters and some different things. It's currently storming in this clip you guys will see in the background. And I will admit, the storming look in this area is so dang dope with how everything lights up. And you'll probably notice the weird car I am driving. I'll talk about that more here in a second. But yes, that is a new vehicle that's part of the update as well. The booster thing is also very cool. I do understand people will probably end up using NASCARs in this, but I also think people will probably end up using other vehicles, and you probably just saw me fly off the road there, which was super unfortunate. But I do feel like the boosters will make it so people might end up messing with different cars or, trying to... But I am going to be real here and say I can definitely see more people probably spending more time at this entire playground compared to something like the Red Bull one or one of the other ones we have seen in previous updates. As I do feel like this entire playground, with the way it's designed and stuff, with the roads, the boosters, the different tracks set up there, other areas to mess around and cruise, I really do feel like people are probably end up spending more time there than the previous playgrounds we did end up seeing. Now, the next thing I did want to show here is probably something a lot of players have been wondering about, guys. Some things you can expect to see in the game that you can also unlock. One thing particularly I know people definitely wanted to see, though, is the Prestige shop. So right now, you guys will see in the background, this is the upcoming Prestige shop exclusives that you will be able to get tomorrow if you did end up missing them. The lovely Ogmios Rally spec car is now coming. That thing is honestly pretty dang great. You also end up seeing the 919 Club Sport as well. And also, finally, the Lotus on top of that, which I would say is another car players might have wanted, just possibly. And, of course, the first one will end up being the Ferrari that I think some people don't care too much for. But, hey, if you are looking to collect every vehicle, they will all at least be there. Including, on top of that, we'll have some new vanity items as well. Or at least, vanity items you probably did end up missing. And not to forget some of the other tunes, aka the engine audios, the Halloween mood kit, and the supercar kit is also going to be available there. Everything else is kind of the old shop items that I would say a lot of people might end up being familiar with. But the next thing I wanted to show you all, though, which I'm sure many people wanted to see, is a lot of the new NASCARs you will be able to get. So the first car, guys, I will pause this here so you can fully see it, the Henson Custom. I don't want to spoil the entire game for y'all, but then again, if you want to skip some of this, I'd recommend doing it now if you don't want to know some of this stuff. But the Proto Henson Custom is on the main playlist in the game, NASCAR. This is the vehicle award you did end up getting from it, and I gotta admit, it's a pretty crazy looking NASCAR, if you want to call it. It gives it like that weird, classical type of crazy vibe, kind of like that one Alpha GP car. I can't remember the name of it, dude. It's been so long. But you all know which one I'm probably talking about. It looks kind of old, you know what I'm saying? That's the kind of vibe I do get from that car. Besides that, though, you'll also end up seeing Chevrolet, Ford, and also Toyota, which I want to say this right off the bat, though. If people are expecting like 10 different NASCAR manufacturers, I don't even think that's possible for one. But in this game, though, you will end up seeing Toyota, Chevrolet, and also Ford as well. I gotta admit, every NASCAR does obviously look very good with the overall body designs, and of course, they will end up having different liveries on them. As far as I do know, once you do end up completing the entire playlist, you can customize them, by the way, but you have to complete the playlist first from what I did end up seeing. So do keep that in mind if you guys are looking to do liveries on them, which I would say people are probably going to definitely want to make NASCAR liveries, and I bet people are going to make some dope ones for that matter. There's obviously a lot of them, and I would say people are probably pretty dang excited for the livery making. Besides that, though, the other thing I wanted to show y'all, because I do know people are interested in this, is the upcoming summits. The first one will be a smoke, and it's also mainly the cup car in the entire summit as well, guys. And you'll also see, though, on the bottom right, track of the week, we will now be seeing a track somebody made in every single summit. So I'm guessing now from the looks of this, every single summit, because the next summit I'll show you guys here in a second. Now, the reward on that one is the Rally Inner White Tire, you know, cool looking maybe, but there's also another one at the bottom right of that. So I'm thinking now there will end up being 7 races now, with one of them being the track of the week, then also 2 skills. Maybe we might see one summit later on that's full track forge, which I can definitely see that happening. And I gotta admit, guys, I am mad excited for this, because I think that will definitely help the summits tremendously with mixing them up and making them a lot more fun. But the final reward, though, which I'll talk about this car in a second, back to the roots, you guys will see basically an older style NASCAR, which honestly, I don't know why, but I kind of like driving this car more than any of the other ones. Now, you might be wondering what I'm talking about, but the playlist you will end up doing, the NASCAR playlist, you will pretty much be starting in this car. Now, as I did end up saying earlier, though, I will be breaking down the entire playlist in a separate video, kind of doing a full review on it, but the first event kind of throws you right into the wolves. You will end up driving the 4 Dark Horse style, NASCAR, and you're also thrown right onto the track. And I do admit, going really fast in a NASCAR, in this you do around, I'd probably say about 180 miles an hour, something like that is at least what I was getting. In cockpit view, it looks very cool, and also the overall physics and different things about NASCARs, I noticed it in the playlist because I'm sure that's the main thing they were looking for. It is definitely a little bit different. You guys will notice that you'll end up having a health bar for your vehicle, tire wear, and also fuel on top of that when you are doing these races. So it will definitely be a different design. And of course, on top of all of that, though, you will also have to pit as well, which I'll show more of that here in a second. But more of the footage I was racing here with the NASCAR guys. This was actually one of the parts I was trying to draft, because drafting basically lowers your tire wear time, and it also lowers the amount of fuel consumption you will end up having on top of that. So it is honestly pretty cool. I do like the implementation of this stuff. I feel like they did do a great job overall of it. The one thing I probably would have wanted, though, is honestly more gas, I would probably say. That would have been pretty dope. Who knows, maybe in the future, maybe on other events. I really don't know. But on the first event the game did end up throwing you in, I have to say, it was pretty cool. I could definitely see the other physics of the NASCARs in the events. I will say right now, when I was driving the NASCARs on the road, or, doing some of the other races in the playlist that weren't styled like this, or if you were just driving down the road, I personally feel like the NASCARs feel like a better Alpha GP car that has kind of similar power, but also really good grip in most places. That's kind of like one of the best ways I can explain it. The next part I did want to show y'all, though, is when you are pitting. I'm sure people will end up wanting to see this. You pretty much have to smash the buttons here in order to do the tires there. That way you can get all your tires repaired. Then you'll have to do the gas thing for your, gas. pretty much have to fill it up by hitting the L2 button to get the gas all the way up. The other one is also kind of similar to when you guys had to hit the it was that lowrider thing. If your vehicle is damaged, you have to do like the D-pad thing. I'll show a clip of that as well. It wasn't hard to do, but if you do mess it up on like the second to last one, then it sends you all the way back to the beginning. So, and a few of the things I did notice though is I do feel like some of this might end up having strategies. I gotta admit one thing though. I was kind of low-key hoping we'd have like 20 racers on the track. I thought that would have been absolute chaos, but by the looks, I think there's only 8 to maybe 10 people that you might have total on these tracks. So if people are looking for a grand race style NASCAR, I don't know if that's going to be a thing, but man, do I wish it would be. The crashes are also pretty dope on this. I did notice if you hit the other racers, you lose different control compared to like if you were driving around or something. So do keep that in mind if you guys want to bounce into the other racers or hit them. You might want to think second about doing that, because if you bounce in, you could spin out much easier, you'll crash, and guess what? You will most likely have to do one of two things, basically restart, or you'll pretty much rewind and hope it doesn't happen again. Now, the other thing I did want to mention here is we will obviously have the brand new NASCAR playlist. This will have 9 events. Technically, there's a 10th event, which is kind of part of the main vehicle you get at the end of it. Obviously, you guys, again, will see a breakdown on the entire thoughts of this playlist. But it will end up having 9 races, definitely mixed up of having some of the old style with the older NASCAR, which I did mention before, and also the main NASCAR races as well on the track. So do keep in mind, though, I have to say a lot of the races are pretty long in this, so do be ready for that. I was noticing 6 to 8 minutes on a majority of them, which is, I don't think it's a bad thing, but also I'm not sure how people might take it with how some of the pitting and stuff in that is. It's not terrible, but I do feel like players might end up having a mixed opinion on the entire tire wear thing and damage and all that stuff and fuel, which I'm wondering if we'll see new affixes stats for the Cup cars. That would honestly be kind of dope. Obviously, we'll have to see when we can play the game fully, but I kind of think maybe that might end up being a thing, like, you know how the entire Chase Squad thing had the other affixes, so who knows, that might end up being possible. The last thing that kind of threw me off a little bit, though, is the new playlist also has rivals. But the difference is with these rivals, though, is that it's not the same rivals you saw with Chase Squad, where you will end up seeing them around the map and you race them. Although it's kind of similar because you will find them around the map. But the difference this time around, though, which I'll show you guys some gameplay of this, they are basically stunt style events. You guys remember some of the other ones where you had to do like 3 or 4 things in that? You had to go through like a checklist. Well, on this one, you basically have to do 3 sets of 4 of those, I believe it is, unless I'm losing my mind a little bit. But you have to do 3 sets of 4 of those. You kind of have to get the scoring or do the objective that is at hand, basically all of them. Then you move over to the next step and then the final step. And I gotta admit, it's definitely not what I was expecting, and I have a feeling people might not be, honestly, the biggest fan of this. I'm gonna be real with y'all and say that. I'll show a little gameplay of one of them in the back, that way you guys can see what I am talking about. But I do feel like some of these might not be the biggest thing that players might end up enjoying. I'm interested in what y'all think once you do end up playing it. But I do feel like Rivals is this probably not what people most likely expected, at least what I'm thinking so far. Now, I also did want to go over something that many players have probably been looking forward to, and most likely this could even be the biggest thing about the update that players are excited for. That is simply down to the Track Forge. There is a lot of stuff to this. I was noticing looking at the menu, there is a lot of different custom races you can easily join, instantly jump into and mess around and see what people have made, which is very cool. Definitely reminds me of the entire menu of, okay, well, let me go pick a bunch of these races. There's all of these. Or on top of that, you can also go simply make some of your own tracks with different things. You guys are probably seeing me in the background right now doing a Demolition Derby event, which I'm going to be real. This actually got me excited, man. I was so glad to see something like this again. You even have the props that will knock you off the track and stuff. Definitely a very cool thing to see with Demolition Derby, because these classes really needed races. Am I right? Now, there might not be the races you probably expected, but I am glad we have something in there for those. You'll also then see me in a rally car doing one of the rallycross events. Now, as I mentioned before, they are still track focused. So if you guys are kind of off-road heads, or, you know, kind of like how I am, and you're into that stuff, you may end up being a bit disappointed in that regard, at least for right now, because you'll still be on the track running the rally cars. There's a lot of crazy dips and some crazy turns and some, you know, insane track stuff where you'll be stuck to the track like Trackmania or some Hot Wheels type of thing. So that is also in there on top of it. One thing I can admit though, doing some of these tracks, I really do feel like players will end up making some absolutely crazy stuff, and a lot of fun races can definitely add on to the longevity of the game, and also will probably mix up the game in general, because I feel like a lot of the events will be different. There'll be so many, different things overall you can race on, and probably do different types of tracks, which I would say players will be making like absolute madness. Again, this is probably one of the biggest highlights in this update. I am pretty excited to see what people do end up making. I might try end up making some tracks myself as well and see what I can do. But honestly, I do feel like a lot of players, or a good amount of them, might end up just kind of going through and finding some cool races, maybe some of their favorite ones and stuff. They could save them or do what they want, maybe invite their friends to them and all that stuff. So there'll definitely be a bigger thing here with the events, and players will probably end up making things like madness, so it'll probably get pretty dang insane. Overall, though, guys, that will pretty much do it for the early look here of the Season 9 update in Motorfest. Let me know what y'all think. And again, I will be going over more stuff in the coming days and all that. There is definitely things I want to talk about with the playlist. Some other things as well, going over some reviews and different testing and some other things I'd like to talk about as well. And once again, though, I want to say thank you, Ubisoft, for providing me access to the game. Do let me know what y'all think about what you have seen so far with the rewards in the shop or the summer rewards, and also seeing a Track Forge event in there now. That I feel like will be a very big positive. For me personally, I'd actually like to see more than one event in those summits. And also, do let me know what y'all think about the NASCARs from like first glance. What do y'all think about them? I am planning some more videos on them, some testing and stuff like that maybe as well, and going over my initial thoughts on the handling and the physics. So do stay tuned for a lot more videos coming in the next few days/weeks.